The great crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber had never seen such chaos. 12,000 years of order, 12,000 years of careful control over which species could travel between stars, and now everything was falling apart because of one small blue planet in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. Ambassador Zexthul floated above the central speaking platform, his ethereal form shimmering with anxiety. Around him, representatives from 100 different worlds clicked, buzzed, and roared in a dozen languages. The translation devices worked overtime to keep up with the panic. Order, order! Chairman Veltar slammed his four-armed gavel against the crystal podium. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. Slowly the noise died down. We are here to discuss the situation. Everyone knew what situation he meant. The humans. 3 months ago, the Council's deep space sensors had detected something impossible. Ships moving faster than light without using any of the approved methods. No space-folding technology. No quantum tunnels. No dimension jumping. These ships just moved. They broke the laws of physics and kept going. The first report had been dismissed as a sensor error. The second report caused concern. By the 10th report, the Council had sent investigation teams. What they found changed everything. The species calls itself humanity, Zexthul began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. They come from a system they call Sol, third planet from their star. According to our databases, they should still be throwing rocks at each other. A nervous laugh rippled through the crowd. It wasn't really funny. The Council kept careful watch on all developing species. They knew when a world discovered fire, when they split the atom, when they first looked at the stars and wondered. Earth had been on the watch list as a primitive world that might be ready for contact in another 1,000 years. Maybe 2,000. Show them the footage, Chairman Veltar ordered. The air above the central platform shimmered and formed a three-dimensional image. A human ship hung in space, long and sleek with lines that somehow looked both ancient and futuristic. It wasn't very big compared to Council vessels, but there was something about it that made the watching aliens uncomfortable. This image was taken 4 days ago in the Kepler system, Zexthul continued. As you can see, they are already establishing some kind of base on the 4th planet. How many systems have they reached? Asked Ambassador Kliss from the Silicon Collective. Her mechanical voice buzzed with static. Zexthul's form flickered brighter. 17 confirmed. Possibly more. The chamber erupted again. 17 systems in 3 months was impossible. Even the Council's fastest ships couldn't cover that much space so quickly. Most species took decades to establish their first colony outside their home system. What did they say when you contacted them? This came from General Thrain of the Regelian hegemony. His reptilian features showed barely controlled anger. That's the problem. Zexthul seemed to shrink. They didn't. What do you mean they didn't? I mean they didn't respond at all. We sent first contact teams to 3 different systems. Standard approach, universal peace signals, diplomatic language packages. The whole protocol. The human ships detected our approach, we know that much from their movements. But they simply ignored us. The silence that followed was louder than all the earlier shouting. Dr. Kliss leaned forward, her mechanical voice cutting through the quiet. Ignored? Not responded with hostility? Not fled in fear? Ignored. As if we weren't there. Their ships continued their work. Their people went about their business. In one case, a human vessel actually moved around our diplomatic ship like we were an asteroid in their way. Chairman Veltar felt his blood pressure rising. In 12,000 years of galactic history, no species had ever simply ignored first contact. They were always afraid, aggressive, curious, or worshipful, but never indifferent. Perhaps their communication systems are different, suggested Ambassador Yithmora from the Centauri Union. Some species develop along unusual paths. We thought that too, Zexthul admitted, so we sent our best xenolinguists. They studied human broadcasts and learned their languages. All of them. Humans use hundreds of different languages on their home world. And we tried again. In perfect human English, Mandarin, Spanish, and 12 other languages. The response was the same. Nothing. General Thrain stood up, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. Perhaps they need a stronger message. My fleet could make them listen. That would violate the first contact protocols, Chairman Veltar said quickly. We cannot use force until all diplomatic options are exhausted. What diplomatic options? Thrain's voice was a low growl. They won't talk. Dr. Kliss activated a holographic display. I've been studying their broadcasts, their entertainment, their news, their communications. These humans are fascinating. They already know about us. The chamber fell silent again. Impossible, whispered someone from the back rows. Not impossible. Primitive, but not stupid. They've been watching the galaxy with their crude instruments for decades. They know about faster-than-light travel. They know about galactic civilization. Their fiction is full of stories about space empires and alien councils. Chairman Veltar felt something cold in his stomach. Are you saying they know about the council specifically? I believe they do. Some of their entertainment shows feature scenarios remarkably similar to our actual structure. They know there's a galactic government. They just don't seem to care about meeting it. Ambassador Zexthul's form pulsed with confusion, but that makes no sense. Every species wants to join galactic civilization. It's the natural progression. Primitive worlds always seek guidance from their betters. Maybe these humans don't think we're their betters, Dr. Kliss said quietly. The words hung in the air like a physical presence. In 12,000 years, no species had ever questioned the Council's natural superiority. Younger races were always eager to learn from older, wiser civilizations. It was the foundation of galactic society. That's ridiculous, General Thrain snapped. They can't even control their own planet's weather. Half their population lives in poverty. They still use fossil fuels. And yet they broke faster-than-light travel without our help, Dr. Kliss pointed out. Their ships use technology we don't understand. Our scientists can't figure out how their engines work. Chairman Veltar looked around the chamber. Fear was replacing confusion in many faces. The Galactic Council existed because older, wiser species guided younger ones. It was natural law. It was the way things had always been. What are their expansion patterns? He asked. Zexthul activated another display. Red dots appeared throughout local space, showing human presence. No pattern we can identify. They're not following trade routes or resource concentrations. Some systems they've colonized have nothing valuable. Others they've ignored despite rich mineral deposits. What about their military strength? Unknown. Their ships carry weapons, but we haven't seen them used. When our diplomatic vessels approached, they didn't power up weapons or raise shields. They just continued working. The more Chairman Veltar heard, the more worried he became. An aggressive species could be negotiated with or fought. A fearful species could be reassured or intimidated. But a species that simply didn't acknowledge your existence, that was something new. Recommendations? He asked. We need more information, Dr. Kliss said immediately. I request permission to establish a full study team. We need to understand how they think. Agreed. General Thrain, increase patrol strength in human-occupied systems. No hostile actions, but I want to know everything they do. And if they continue to ignore us? Thrain asked. Chairman Veltar was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke words that had never been said in the council chamber before. I don't know. The meeting ended in uncomfortable silence. As the representatives filed out, many looked back at the display showing human expansion. The red dots seemed to pulse like a heartbeat, spreading across the galaxy with quiet determination. In the empty chamber, Chairman Veltar stared at the display for a long time. 12,000 years of order were ending. He could feel it. Something was changing in the galaxy, and for the first time in his long life, the Council wasn't in control of that change. Outside the crystal dome, the stars continued their ancient dance, indifferent to the fears of those who thought they ruled them. 6 months had passed since the first emergency session, and Chairman Veltar was beginning to understand what true fear felt like. The morning briefings had become exercises in watching the galaxy slowly slip from the Council's control. 43 systems, Dr. Kliss reported, her mechanical voice somehow managing to sound tired. Confirmed human presence in 43 star systems. That's 26 new colonies in just 6 months. General Thrain's claws scraped against the metal table. It's impossible. Even our fastest colony ships take months to establish a basic outpost. These humans are doing it in weeks. That's not the worst part, Ambassador Zexthul said, his ethereal form dimmer than usual. Show them the Rigelian sector report. A holographic display activated above the table. The sacred Kepler 442 system appeared in 3 dimensions, its 6 planets orbiting peacefully around a yellow star. Except now there was something else there. A human mining operation on the system's outer asteroid belt. They're in our territory, General Thrain roared. Sacred Rigelian space. This is an act of war. Technically, Dr. Kliss said carefully. The asteroid belt isn't claimed territory under galactic law. It's considered empty space. It's our system. We've controlled it for 3,000 years. Yes, but you never formally claimed the asteroids. Only the inhabited worlds. Chairman Veltar rubbed his temples. Bureaucratic details were becoming weapons against them. The humans seemed to understand galactic law better than some species who had lived under it for millennia. What are they mining? He asked. Everything, Zexthal replied. Rare metals, common ores, ice for water, even collecting cosmic dust. But here's what's strange, they're not keeping it all. Half of what they mine gets loaded onto ships and sent somewhere else. Where? We don't know. Their faster-than-light technology doesn't leave traces we can follow. Ambassador Ythmora leaned forward. What about the diplomatic incidents? How many now? Dr. Kliss pulled up another file. 17 separate contact attempts in the last month alone. The Silicon Collective sent automated negotiation drones to their mining operation in the Ross system. The humans dismantled them, destroyed them. General Thrain asked hopefully. No, dismantled, carefully. They took them apart piece by piece, studied each component, then sent the pieces back with a note saying, "Thank you for the interesting technology." Chairman Veltar felt his species' equivalent of a headache coming on. What else? The Altarian Republic tried a different approach. They sent cultural gifts and art, traditional first contact offerings. The humans accepted everything politely, then sent back gifts of their own. That sounds positive. It would be. Except their gifts were technologies we've never seen before. Miniature fusion reactors that run for centuries without fuel. Medical devices that can regrow limbs. Transportation systems that move people instantly across continents. The room fell silent. Every species guarded their advanced technology carefully. It was the basis of trade, diplomacy, and power in the galaxy. You didn't give away your best inventions to strangers. Are they trying to impress us? Chairman Veltar asked. I don't think so, Dr. Kliss said slowly. I've been studying their internal communications. They talk about the gifts like they're giving toys to children. The silence got heavier. Toys? General Thrain's voice was dangerously quiet. Simple examples of basic technology. One conversation I intercepted had a human scientist explaining to his colleagues that they should keep the gifts simple so the locals can understand them. Chairman Veltar stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the capital world of the Galactic Council buzzed with activity. Ships from 100 species came and went, carrying out the business of a galaxy-spanning civilization, or what used to be a galaxy-spanning civilization. How many member species have requested permission to establish trade with humanity? He asked without turning around. 47, Zexthal admitted, including 3 of the founding members. And their reasons? The technology transfers. Humans are sharing things that would advance some species by thousands of years. The Kepler Confederation received blueprints for terraforming equipment that could turn dead worlds into gardens in decades instead of centuries. In exchange for what? That's the problem, nothing. Humans don't want anything in return. They share their technology for free. Chairman Veltar turned back to the group. Free? Completely free. No trade agreements. No political alliances. No territorial concessions. They give away technology that could reshape civilizations, and they ask for nothing. General Thrain slammed his fist on the table. It's some kind of trap. They're trying to make other species dependent on them. Maybe, Dr. Kliss said. But if so, it's working. The Vegan Trade Union declared independence from Council economic policies last week. They said they don't need our trade networks anymore because human technology makes them self-sufficient. The headache was getting worse. What about economic sanctions? Surely we can pressure them through their needs for resources or trade. Ambassador Ythmora pulled up economic data. That's another problem. Near as we can tell, humans don't have an economy. Everyone has an economy, not like ours. They don't trade with each other in any recognizable way. Their production systems seem to operate on principles of abundance rather than scarcity. They make what they need when they need it. Impossible. Economics is based on limited resources. Not for them, apparently. Their ships manufacture everything on site. Raw materials go in one end, finished products come out the other. No factories, no supply chains, no trade routes. Chairman Veltar sat back down heavily. What about their government? Who makes their decisions? We're still studying that, Dr. Kliss admitted. They seem to organize themselves into small groups that work independently but coordinate somehow. No central authority that we can identify. No government, How do they maintain order? They just do. No police forces, no military commands, no bureaucracy. But they don't seem to have crime or conflict either. General Thrain leaned back in his chair. This is getting ridiculous. You're describing a perfect society. No species achieves perfection. Maybe they're not trying to achieve perfection, Dr. Kliss said thoughtfully. Maybe they've moved beyond the need for the systems we think are necessary. Beyond our systems? Chairman Veltar felt something cold in his chest. You mean beyond the need for the council? Before Dr. Kliss could answer, the chamber's communication system activated. Priority message from Deep Space Station 7, the artificial voice announced. Put it through, Chairman Veltar ordered. The holographic display showed Commander Kethwin, a veteran officer who had never shown fear in 30 years of service. Today his face was pale and his hands shook slightly. Council Command, we have a situation. 3 human vessels just appeared in our sensor range. They're not using any jump points or travel lanes. They just appeared. Appeared how? General Thrain demanded, unknown. One moment empty space, the next moment 3 ships. But that's not the strangest part. They're broadcasting on all frequencies in perfect Council standard language. Chairman Veltar felt his heart skip a beat. What are they saying? Commander Kethwin swallowed hard. They're asking if we need help with anything. Medical supplies, equipment repair, technical assistance. They say they noticed our station is old and might need maintenance. How would they know our station needs maintenance? Sir, they're right. We've been requesting repair supplies for months, but the bureaucracy keeps delaying approval. Our life support systems are failing and our food synthesizers broke down last week. The chamber fell completely silent. Human ships had somehow detected problems that the Council's own bureaucracy couldn't handle efficiently. What did you tell them? Chairman Veltar asked. I told them we were fine. They said they understood and asked me to contact them if we changed our minds. Then they just sat there waiting. Waiting for what? I don't know, sir. They're just hanging in space near our station. Not threatening, not approaching. Just available. Chairman Veltar closed the communication channel and looked around the table. Opinions? They're mocking us, General Thrain said immediately. Showing up where we're weak, offering help we should be able to provide ourselves. Or, Dr. Kliss said quietly, they genuinely want to help. Why would they help us? We're nothing to them, just another primitive species fumbling around in space. The words hung in the air like an accusation. Finally, Chairman Veltar spoke. Schedule another emergency session. Full council. We need to discuss our options. What options? General Thrain asked. Chairman Veltar looked out the window again. In the distance, a human ship was visible against the stars. It wasn't doing anything threatening. It was just there, like a quiet reminder that the galaxy had changed. I'm beginning to think, he said slowly, that we need to consider the possibility that humanity doesn't want to join our civilization. Then what do they want? Maybe they want us to join theirs. The Grand Assembly Hall had never been so full, yet Chairman Veltar had never felt so alone. Every seat was occupied, with some delegates standing in the aisles. Emergency sessions were rare, but this was the 3rd one in 8 months. The galaxy was falling apart, and everyone wanted someone to blame. The situation has become critical, Supreme Arbiter Noxavan announced, his ancient voice carrying across the massive chamber. At over 2,000 years old, he was the oldest being in the Council, and his words carried the weight of millennia. 12 member species have declared independence. 43 others have stopped paying council taxes. The Vegan Trade Union has offered to share human terraforming technology with anyone who wants it, regardless of council approval. Angry voices erupted throughout the hall. Species that had waited centuries for permission to colonize new worlds were watching younger races terraform planets in months using human technology. The careful balance of galactic civilization was crumbling. How is this possible? Demanded Ambassador Krex from the Draconian Empire. We are the Council. We maintain order. We decide who gets what technology and when. Apparently, Dr. Kliss said from her position at the Central Console, humans disagree with that approach. She activated the main display, showing a map of local galactic space. Red dots marked human colonies, but now there were blue dots as well. Former council members who had declared independence. The pattern is clear, Dr. Kliss continued. Wherever humans establish a presence, Local species stop following council directives. They don't join humanity exactly, but they stop needing us. Stop needing us? General Thrain's voice was a dangerous growl. Every species needs guidance. It's the natural order. Natural, according to whom? The question came from Ambassador Yithmora, and it sent ripples of shock through the assembly. Questioning the natural order was close to heresy and council politics. According to 12,000 years of successful galactic civilization, Supreme Arbiter Noxavon said firmly, older species guide younger ones. Advanced civilizations share knowledge gradually and carefully. This prevents chaos and ensures stability. Tell that to the humans, Dr. Kliss muttered, then louder. I've completed the analysis of human contact protocols. They've made contact with 137 different species in the past year. Contact? Chairman Veltar leaned forward. You mean they're talking to others but not to us? Not exactly. They approach every species the same way they approached us. They don't demand meetings or negotiations. They simply exist nearby. If a species wants to talk, they talk. If not, humans continue their business. And how many species have chosen to talk? Dr. Kliss looked uncomfortable. All of them. The silence that followed was deafening. All of them chose to talk to humans, but none of them can be bothered to follow council directives anymore. General Thrain said slowly, That's not a coincidence. What are these humans telling them? Supreme Arbiter Noxavon demanded. That's what we wanted to find out, Dr. Kliss replied. So we authorized Project Silver Tongue. Chairman Veltar felt his stomach drop. Project Amo. Silver Tongue was the Council's most classified operation, using the galaxy's most powerful telepaths and negotiators to force communication when normal diplomacy failed. The results? He asked, though he dreaded the answer. Complete failure. Dr. Kliss pulled up mission reports. We sent our best teams to 3 different human colonies. The Scion Masters from Altair Prime, the Reality Warpers from the Void Dimension, even the Ethereal Dominion's consciousness manipulators, and the humans were polite. They invited our teams to tour their facilities, offered them food and entertainment, answered questions about their technology. Some of the negotiators stayed for weeks. That sounds successful. It would be, except when our teams came back, they couldn't explain what they'd learned. The Scion Masters reported that human minds are unusually clear, but impossible to influence. The Reality Warpers said human space feels more real than real. The consciousness manipulators couldn't even detect individual human minds. They described it as trying to manipulate an ocean. Ambassador Krex stood up, his dragon-like features twisted with rage. This is intolerable. If they won't negotiate, we'll force them to. With what? General Thrain asked bitterly. Half my fleet is requesting transfers to independent systems. The other half keeps asking why we don't just ask the humans for better ships. Better ships? Dr. Kliss activated another display. Human vessels have been observed moving through solid matter, not teleporting or phasing, moving through asteroids like they weren't there. Their ships also seem to repair themselves. We've watched them take direct hits from meteors and show no damage. Shields? No energy signatures indicating defensive systems. The ships themselves seem to be indestructible. Supreme Arbiter Noxavon floated to the center of the chamber. Enough speculation. We need facts. What do these humans actually want? What is their goal? That's the strangest part, Dr. Kliss admitted. Near as we can tell, they don't want anything. They explore, they build, they help others. But they don't seem to have an agenda. Everyone has an agenda. Do they? Look at their behavior patterns. They don't conquer territory, they just use empty space. They don't demand tribute or taxes. They give things away. They don't try to control other species. They offer options and let everyone choose. Then what do they do all day? Chairman Veltar asked. Dr. Kliss paused, accessing her data files. They create things. Art, music, literature, technology, gardens, cities. They explore new places and learn about everything they find. They help other species solve problems. They seem to spend most of their time simply enjoying existence. The concept was so alien that many delegates looked confused. No species just enjoys existence, Ambassador Krex protested. There are always struggles, competitions, hierarchies. That's what drives progress. Maybe they've progressed beyond the need for struggle, Dr. Kliss suggested. The suggestion hit the chamber like a physical blow. The entire foundation of galactic civilization was based on competition, hierarchy, and controlled progress. Species struggled to advance. Older races guided younger ones, and the Council maintained order through careful management of resources and knowledge. Impossible, Supreme Arbiter Noxavon said firmly. No species transcends the need for structure and guidance. As if summoned by his words, the chamber's communication system activated. Incoming transmission, the artificial voice announced. Source, unknown human vessel. They're requesting permission to address the Council. The chamber erupted in chaos. Humans requesting to address them? After a year of ignoring every diplomatic overture? Put them through, Supreme Arbiter Noxavon commanded. The main display activated, showing a single human female. She appeared middle-aged by human standards, with gray hair and calm eyes. She wore simple clothing and stood in what looked like a garden rather than a ship's bridge. Hello, she said simply. My name is Elena Rodriguez. I represent a group of humans who have been watching your discussions about us. Watching? Chairman Veltar found his voice. How? You broadcast these sessions on public frequencies. We assumed you wanted them to be heard. Elena smiled. We've been listening for months, hoping to understand your concerns. Our concerns are that you ignore our authority, General Thrain shouted. We don't ignore your authority over your own people, Elena replied calmly. We simply don't recognize your authority over us. No one elected you to govern humanity. We govern the galaxy. It's our responsibility. According to whom? We've studied your history. 12,000 years ago, a group of species decided to form a council. That's fine for them. But we weren't asked if we wanted to join, and we don't see why your decisions should apply to us. Supreme Arbiter Noxavon floated forward. Because we are older, wiser. We have experience that your young species lacks. Elena's smile became sad. Older in years, perhaps, but we've learned things you haven't discovered yet. Like what? Like how to be happy, how to create without destroying, how to help others without controlling them, how to explore the universe without claiming ownership of it. Naive idealism, Ambassador Krex sneered. When you face real challenges, you'll learn the need for proper authority. We've faced real challenges, Elena said quietly. We nearly destroyed our own world through war and environmental damage. We conquered that challenge not through authority and control, but by learning to work together voluntarily. And now you think you can teach us? We don't want to teach you anything you don't want to learn, but we're happy to share what we've discovered with anyone who's interested. Chairman Veltar leaned forward. What do you want from us? Nothing, Elena said simply. We want nothing from you except to be left alone to live our lives as we choose. In return, we'll leave you alone to live yours as you choose. And the IIB species that are abandoning the council to follow your example? They're not following us. They're choosing their own paths. We simply showed them that choosing was possible. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Finally, Supreme Arbiter Noxavon spoke. The humans claim they want to be left alone, but their very existence is destroying our civilization. Every day they remain free, more species question our authority. So what do? Chairman Veltar asked. We have one option left, the Supreme Arbiter said grimly. Total isolation. We seal human space off-row. The reality warping chamber deep beneath the council headquarters had never been used for anything this massive. Crystalline conduits ran along the walls, pulsing with energies that most species couldn't even perceive. At the center, 12 of the galaxy's most powerful reality manipulators sat in a perfect circle, their consciousness linked through ancient technology. Chairman Veltar watched from the observation deck as technicians made final preparations. In theory, the barrier would seal off all space occupied by humans, creating an impassable wall between human territory and the rest of the galaxy. In theory, energy levels are approaching maximum, Chief Engineer Morthek reported. The reality manipulators report they can feel the fabric of space-time responding to their will. Any problems? Chairman Veltar asked. Only one. The barrier has to encompass an enormous volume of space. We're talking about sealing off hundreds of star systems simultaneously. The power requirements are— Morthek paused, checking his instruments. Unprecedented. Dr. Kliss floated beside him, her mechanical form dim with worry. Are you certain this is wise? We don't fully understand how human technology works. What if it interacts badly with our reality manipulation? Too late for doubts now, General Thrain growled from his position near the controls. The process has begun. Through the reinforced windows, they could see the reality warpers beginning their work. The chamber filled with impossible colors and shifting geometries as 12 minds reached out to reshape the fundamental nature of space itself. Barrier formation at 10%, Morthek announced. We're detecting massive energy expenditure, but the process appears stable. Chairman Veltar activated his communication link to the main council chamber. Status report from all sectors. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Council fleets were positioned at strategic points, ready to maintain the barrier once it formed. Observation stations tracked human vessels throughout their territory. Barrier at 30%, Morthek called out. The reality warpers report unusual resistance. Space and human territory feel different. Different how? They describe it as more solid than usual, as if the space itself has been reinforced somehow. Dr. Kleiss's mechanical voice buzzed with static. That's impossible. Space is space. It can't be reinforced. Barrier at 50%. Beads of something like sweat appeared on Morthek's scaled forehead. Wait, we're getting reports from the forward observation posts. The main screen activated, showing feeds from scout ships positioned near human colonies. What they saw made no sense. Human ships weren't fleeing or preparing for battle. Instead, they were simply disappearing. One moment a vessel was there, the next it was gone. Not destroyed, not hidden, simply absent. Are they retreating? General Thrain asked. Negative, came the report from Scout Captain Vexathani. They're not moving to other positions. They're just vanishing. Every human ship, every colony, every installation, they're all disappearing. Chairman Veltar felt cold spreading through his chest. How many? All of them, sir. In the past hour, we've lost contact with every human presence in the galaxy. It's like they were never there. Barrier at 70%, Morthek announced, but his voice was shaking now. The reality warpers are reporting something else. They say the space they're trying to seal is becoming empty. Empty of humans? Empty of everything. Matter, energy, even the background radiation of space itself. It's becoming a perfect void. Dr. Kliss pulled up sensor data from across human territory. System after system showed the same readings. Empty space where thriving colonies had existed just hours before. This doesn't make sense, she muttered. You can't just remove matter from the universe. Where did it all go? Barrier at 90%, Morthek called out. The reality warpers say they can complete the seal, but they're not sure what they'll be sealing off anymore. Chairman Veltar made the decision. Complete the barrier. Barrier formation complete. The chamber filled with a sound like reality tearing and mending itself. Perfect seal established. Human territory is completely isolated from the rest of galactic space. Cheers erupted from the main council chamber. After months of helplessness, they had finally acted. The human problem was solved, but the celebration lasted only until the first report started coming in. Sir, Scout Captain Vexathani's voice was small and confused. We have a problem. The barrier is there, we can see it solid as a wall, but our sensors aren't detecting anything on the other side. What do you mean? I mean there's nothing there. No stars, no planets, no matter of any kind. The barrier isn't containing human space, it's containing absolute emptiness. The cheering stopped. Dr. Kleiss worked frantically at her console. This is impossible. We sealed off 300 star systems. They can't all be empty. The readings are consistent across all observation points, Vexathani reported. Whatever was on the other side of the barrier, it's gone. Chairman Veltar sank into his command chair. How long before we can lower the barrier and investigate? Chief Engineer Morthek checked his power readings. The energy expenditure was enormous. It will take weeks to recharge the systems. maybe months. And the reality warpers, exhausted. 3 of them have collapsed. The others report that maintaining the barrier required more power than expected because they were trying to contain something that wasn't entirely there to begin with. General Thrain leaned forward. What does that mean? I think, Dr. Kliss said slowly, it means the humans knew we were going to try this. Impossible. The barrier project was classified at the highest levels. So was Project Silver Tongue, but they knew about our negotiation teams. So were our patrol routes, but they avoided our ships perfectly. I think we need to accept that human intelligence gathering is far more sophisticated than we believed. Chairman Veltar felt very old suddenly. So they evacuated their territory before we could seal it off. Not evacuated, Dr. Kliss corrected. Evacuated implies they moved somewhere else in normal space. Our sensors show they didn't go anywhere in this galaxy. Then where did they go? I have a theory, but you're not going to like it. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of the reality barrier generators. Tell us, Chairman Veltar said. Dr. Kliss pulled up astronomical data. For the past year, I've been tracking human exploration patterns. They weren't random like we thought. They were systematic, mapping specific regions of space, studying particular phenomena. So the regions they were studying weren't normal space. They were scanning areas where ancient surveys detected anomalous readings. Places where previous expeditions reported impossible discoveries that were dismissed as sensor errors. What kind of discoveries? Traces of technology that predates galactic civilization, energy signatures that don't match any known physics, structural remains that appear to have been built by someone with capabilities far exceeding our own. The implications hit Chairman Veltar like a physical blow. The progenitors. Every schoolchild in the galaxy learned about them. The mysterious first civilization that had supposedly seeded the galaxy with life billions of years ago before mysteriously vanishing. Most scientists considered them mythology, but the evidence was scattered throughout space for anyone who looked carefully. You think humans found progenitor technology? General Thrain asked. I think humans found the progenitors themselves, Dr. Kliss said quietly. The chamber's emergency communication system activated. Priority alert from Deep Space Station 12, the artificial voice announced. Contact from unknown vessels requesting immediate council response. Put them through, Chairman Veltar ordered. The main screen activated, showing space beyond the galaxy's edge, the void where no ships should exist. But there was a ship there, sleek and impossible, sitting in empty space as if empty space was solid ground. A familiar face appeared on the screen. Elena Rodriguez, the human who had addressed them months ago. But she looked different now, younger somehow, and her eyes held depths that seemed to contain starlight. Hello again, she said calmly. We wanted to let you know that your barrier worked perfectly. Thank you for giving us the privacy to complete our transition. Transition to what? Chairman Veltar demanded. To what we were always meant to become. The progenitors left markers throughout the galaxy. Tests and challenges designed to identify species ready to join them. Humanity has passed those tests. Joined them? The progenitors vanished billions of years ago. Elena smiled. They didn't vanish. They transcended. They moved beyond the need for physical space and material concerns. They became something greater, and they've been waiting for other species to join them. And you think you're worthy of that? The progenitors think so. They've been watching galactic development for eons, waiting for a species to develop beyond the need for hierarchy and control, waiting for people who could create without destroying, explore without conquering, help others without demanding submission. General Thrain stepped forward. And you think that's humanity? We know it is. The progenitors have welcomed us as their successors. We're inheriting their role as gardeners of the galaxy. Gardeners? The progenitors seeded life throughout space, then watched as it developed. Now they're passing that responsibility to us. 3 months after the barriers fell, Chairman Veltar stood in his private office looking out at a galaxy he no longer recognized. Ships moved between stars using trade routes that had been established for thousands of years. But now many of those ships carried technologies that shouldn't exist. Gardens grew on worlds that had been barren rocks. 6 species were healing with medicines that worked like miracles. The knock on his door was expected but unwelcome. Come in, he called. Dr. Kliss entered, her mechanical form updated with new components that made her movement smoother and her voice clearer. Like many beings across the galaxy, she had been quietly upgrading herself with technology that had appeared mysteriously in public databases. "The morning reports," she said, placing a data crystal on his desk. Chairman Veltar didn't pick it up immediately. He knew what it would contain. More member species declaring independence, more worlds requesting permission to join the growing number of self-governing systems, more evidence that the Galactic Council was becoming irrelevant. "How many today?" he asked. 17. The Rigelian hegemony was the biggest loss. They've been council members for 8,000 years. And their reason? Dr. Kliss hesitated. The same as all the others. They say they don't need centralized government anymore. Their worlds are self-sufficient now, and they prefer to handle their own affairs. Chairman Veltar finally picked up the data crystal and inserted it into his personal reader. The reports painted a picture of a galaxy transforming itself from the ground up. Species that had struggled with energy shortages now had fusion reactors that ran themselves. Worlds facing environmental collapse were terraforming themselves in months instead of centuries. Diseases that had plagued entire civilizations for generations were being cured by medical devices that could be manufactured in any standard workshop, all of it freely available in the open databases that had appeared shortly after the barrier incident. "Any word from our observers?" he asked. "The ones watching human space?" Dr. Kliss activated her own display. "That's complicated." The holographic image showed what had once been empty void behind the barriers. But now it was anything but empty. Structures floated in space that defied every rule of architecture and physics. Not ships, not stations, but something between the two. Organic curves that caught starlight and reflected it in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Are they cities? Ships? Habitats?" "All of the above, according to our observers. The structures seem to change function based on need. Sometimes they're ships traveling between stars faster than our instruments can track. Sometimes they're homes where people live and work. Sometimes they're factories creating the technologies that keep appearing in our databases." "And the humans themselves?" Dr. Kliss paused the display. "They're different now. Still recognizably human, but enhanced. They move through space without life support. They manipulate matter with thought. Some of our observers report seeing individual humans the size of small moons, while others appear normal-sized, but radiate energy like stars." Chairman Veltar set down the data crystal. "Are they gods now?" "I don't think they see it that way. When our observers approach, they're still friendly, still willing to talk. They offer tours and explanations. They answer questions and share knowledge. They're just more than they were." "What do they say about their transformation? That it was always possible? The progenitors didn't give them anything they couldn't have developed themselves. They just showed them the path. According to Elena Rodriguez, any species can make the transition when they're ready. Ready for what? To stop competing and start creating. To stop conquering and start exploring. To stop controlling and start helping." Chairman Veltar walked back to his window. Below, the capital city bustled with activity, but it felt different now. Less desperate, less frantic. People moved with purpose, but without panic. "What about the species that haven't left the council? Are we seeing changes there too?" "Significant changes. Crime rates are dropping across all member worlds. Resource conflicts are declining. Scientific advancement is accelerating. It's as if the mere availability of better options has made everyone more optimistic about the future, or as if they're being influenced by something." Dr. Kliss shook her head. "Our science investigators can't detect any external influence. The changes seem genuine. Species are choosing cooperation over competition because cooperation produces better results." A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Chairman Veltar activated his communications panel, revealing the face of Supreme Arbiter Noxvan. "Veltar, we have a situation. A human representative has requested to address the full council." Another message from Elena Rodriguez. "No, this one calls herself Admiral Sarah Chen. She says she has an important offer to make." Chairman Veltar looked at Dr. Kliss, who nodded. "Schedule the session. Full council. All observers welcome." 2 hours later, the council chamber was fuller than it had been in months. Not because membership had increased. In fact, they were down to fewer than half their original members, but because representatives from independent systems had requested permission to observe. Admiral Sarah Chen appeared on the main display. But unlike Elena Rodriguez's previous transmissions, this one felt different. The human woman stood in what appeared to be empty space, stars visible in all directions around her. She wore no protective gear and seemed completely comfortable in the vacuum. "Honored representatives," she began, her voice carrying clearly despite the impossible environment. "I bring greetings from the Progenitor Collective and an invitation." Supreme Arbiter Noxavon leaned forward. "Collective? The community of species that have transcended the need for material limitations. Humanity was the newest to join, but we are not the first. The progenitors themselves represent dozens of species that made this transition over millions of years." "And this invitation?" Admiral Chen smiled. "Any species that chooses can begin the transcendence process. The path is open, the knowledge is available, and the support network exists to help anyone who wants to make the journey." General Thrain, one of the few original council members still present, stood up. "And what does this transcendence involve? Abandoning our bodies? Giving up our cultures? Becoming something inhuman? Quite the opposite. Transcendence means becoming more fully yourself than you ever thought possible. You keep your bodies, your cultures, your individual natures. You just gain the ability to express them without limitation." "No limitations?" Chairman Veltar asked. "That sounds dangerous." "Limitations are only necessary when resources are scarce and needs conflict. When you can create anything you need and space is infinite, limitations become unnecessary restrictions." Dr. Kleiss activated her communications panel. "What about species that choose not to transcend? Are we left behind? Not at all. The galaxy is vast enough for every approach to existence. Some species may choose transcendence, others may prefer traditional development. Still others may find paths we haven't discovered yet. The only requirement is that each choice respects the others." "And the Council?" Supreme Arbiter Noxavon asked. "What role do we play in this new galaxy?" Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke, her voice was gentle. "Whatever role you choose. If species want centralized coordination, the Council can provide that. If they prefer local governance, that's equally valid. The progenitors governed through voluntary cooperation, not imposed authority." "Voluntary cooperation never works on a galactic scale," General Thrain protested. "Someone has to make the hard decisions." "Does someone? Or have we just convinced ourselves that's necessary, because we've never tried alternatives?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. What happens to our existing agreements? Our treaties? Our established order? Chairman Veltar asked. "They remain as long as the participants want them to remain. Some species may choose to honor old agreements, others may negotiate new ones. Still others may decide they no longer need such structures. It's up to each people to decide." Supreme Arbiter Noxavon floated to the center of the chamber. "And if we refuse your offer? If we maintain the council as it was? That's your right. No one will force change on anyone, but—" Admiral Chen paused, looking around the mostly empty chamber. "Change is already happening. The question is whether you guide it or get swept along by it. You're saying we don't really have a choice, then you have every choice. But the galaxy you're trying to govern is choosing its own path. You can join that journey, try to fight it, or find your own alternative. All are valid options." The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in contemplative silence. Finally, Chairman Veltar spoke. "I call for a vote. Do we accept the human invitation and begin exploring transcendence, or do we maintain the traditional council structure?" The vote was closer than expected, but the result was clear. 6 months later, Chairman Veltar stood in the same office, but everything had changed. The title chairman had been retired, along with most of the council's governing structure. In its place was something new, voluntary association of species that chose to coordinate certain activities while governing themselves locally. Some species had chosen transcendence and joined humanity among the stars. Others maintained traditional societies but with new technologies that eliminated scarcity and